back to the Casting Cost CEDH podcast. I'm Blake.
And I'm Chase. And today we're reviewing some of the cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm. Now, to fill you all in of what has happened, we had a kind of cool-ish idea for a video planned where we were cracking packs open and we were pulling that out so that way you could see what all we got. Well, all the shit got corrupted. So we're actually having to go back and re-record this. And we might miss a few things here and there, but give us a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
So
it's been a technical difficulty week. We struggled to get the videos going. We lost like one whole camera's worth of footage. We had audio problems, and then we also we're struggling to fix our gameplay stuff. So thankfully we were able to salvage some of it. But this is just we're gonna fix it all, and then it'll look good. And then next week we're gonna kill it.
Yeah. Get back on track with it.
Yeah.
But you did bring up something there, though, that I think is really good for us to talk about just real quick. Last Saturday, we released our first gameplay video. So if you haven't gone and checked that out, please do so. It's fun. You know, I'm not going to do any spoilers on it if you haven't watched it yet. But there will be gameplay for this coming out. So I think the plan for the time being is to release it on Saturdays, probably around 1 o'clock. Each week. So, all right, you ready to talk about some cards?
Absolutely.
All right, so the first one that we're going to be talking about today is Clarion Conqueror. So I'm going to go in Wooburg order just like we did last time for Aether Drift, but this is the first one that we have. So the stats on this. This is a 3-drop, 3/3 dragon. It's 2 colorless and a white. It has flying and activated abilities of artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers can't be activated.
Mm-hmm. See, I think that I remember, like I said, remember we had talked to some about this, and I like the fact that it's got like good stats on it, obviously. I think the only issue that I have with it is that I feel like in a deck where it could be really utilized with something like we were talking about, like Blood Pod and stuff like that, it shuts off the Blood Pod. So like I feel like it's going to have a little bit of a hard time fitting in certain places. And I feel like in a lot of your like white heavy stacksy decks, you're wanting to do the artifact thing. Like you're probably going like some Ballista combo or like some Aether Flux or something. Like you're doing some combo like that. So a lot of the win cons are artifacts. So I think it may have a little bit of a tough time figuring out where it's going to slot in. But I think if you could find like some combat centric, stacksy deck, I think that it would be totally fine. I could see it going in stuff like that. Like, I told you that I might even try to slot it into like it was like a Sidar Kondo and like Timna deck, just as like, you have like stacksy creatures and you're able to like beat face, get your draws, do stuff like that. I don't know if it synergizes with Sidar Kondo, but still it's like, it's got a big body on it. So if somebody wants to block it, like, fine with that.
Right. No, I could definitely see this in maybe either some like Azorius stacks type shell or even, maybe some kind of Bant shell where I think that this card kind of fits in, might be like Elavir or maybe even Winota for an example, because they're going to play stacksy stuff. They are combat centric, things like that. I can't think of too many creatures in those decks that actually have like activated abilities or anything like that. So I could see this card going in those, but I think that if anything, it's just to kind of double down or triple down on some of the effects that are in those decks. It's just on a body.
Yeah.
Well,
and the other thing too for me, and not that this is wrong, like it's not bad, but I think that with it being like it's got a higher CMC anyways, and I feel like you really want to try and stack the table out pretty early, like shut everybody off as best you can. And with it coming down a little bit later. Now, obviously, people are going to be like, oh, in cEDH, of course you can get 3 mana by like turn 1 or 2. I get it. But still, like, consistency. Like, we are seeing more people having to literally just land pass. So, I'm just saying. And also, like, if you do accelerate this thing out, then you're hurting yourself too because you're shutting out all your own mana. So, like, it's kind of, I don't know, it's up in the air. But I do think it has a purpose. Or it has a place in cEDH. I can see it fitting in. I just don't know how well it will slot in certain decks, but I do think that it could. I think the biggest thing is that obviously it's going to have to, if it doesn't find a home in cEDH, I don't see it finding a home anywhere.
Right.
That's the only unfortunate thing.
Yeah. No, and I I can agree with that. And that's why I think that it's safe to say, like, we can kind of move on to our next one.
Yeah.
So the next one, we're still in white, and this is probably one of the most anticipated cards of the set. But now we have Voice of Victory. So for 2, we have a 1/3, so it's a colorless and white. It has Mobilize 2, which is a new mechanic in the set where whenever the creature attacks, you create 2 tapped and attacking. In this case, you create 2 tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature tokens, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next upkeep. That's what the Mobilize mechanic is, whatever the number is. Mm-hmm. And the static ability of this card is your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have like this really mixed feeling about this card. Like, obviously, we're in white. We're getting another Grand Abolisher-esque or a silence effect. I guess more so a silence effect than Grand Abolisher. But, you know, it's good in that aspect of things, where I feel like the downside to it is if you are going to play this in, like, a Tymna deck or something that is combat-centric, like, you're putting your silence effect in harm's way, even though it has a somewhat decent-sized body being a 1/3. Like, it's not going to die to a Bowmaster instantaneously. But the fact that you have to attack with it to make use of the Mobilize, and either, like, if you're trying to do that to get extra triggers for Tymna, or there's something there combat-wise, like, I think it's good that it makes Warriors, because that's, like, Najila specific. But again, you're having to put it in harm's way, and where the format has slowed down enough, and we're seeing more creature combo-esque type things, you're probably not going to make a full use of this card. Plus, it doesn't have the upside that Grand Abolisher has, where, you know, basically the only way to remove that and be able to interact on that person's turn is an Otawara. With this, you can still activate lands, but you still activate artifacts, you still activate creature abilities, enchantments, whatever it might be. This doesn't get around those things. It's still good. I think that, you know, the one less white makes it better, especially like if you're trying to like triple up on those effects, or quadruple if, you know, between Silence, Grand Abolisher, Ranger Captain, Voice of Victory, and then sometimes Kutzel, depending on the deck build. But that's kind of my stance on this card, is that, like, I have really mixed feelings about it. I recognize that it's good, but and it's going to see play in pretty much everything that has white. I don't have a doubt in that. But yeah, that's where I'm at on it. I think it's kind of not as great as our other options.
No, I mean, I definitely can agree with that. I think that, if you want me to be honest with you, I think that this is probably better than something like Silence. I know that sounds stupid. Like, some people will be like, I disagree. And that's fine.
Silence is easier to counter.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. I really enjoy, like, I love whenever I see something like Ranger Captain, Grand Abolisher, things like that. Like, we are very limited on the number of, like, creature counters that people have in their decks. So just that repetitiveness of having something like that will allow you to, like, basically put it down, and then you're in a nice spot. And obviously, like, there are going to be times where somebody might be like, I got you. Like, if, you know, like we were talking about, if they have a Talon Gates and stuff like that. But I've had that happen to me with, you know, even with Grand Abolisher. And
right.
So, like, it happens. Stuff like that does happen. But I think this card's amazing, simply for the fact that I've even told you, I love the repetitiveness of silence effects anyway, especially in Esper, because I'm not putting out a ton of mana. I'm just kind of biding my time, looking for opportunity, like trying to stop wins and then trying to bide my time to go for a win. And I love when I see these silency effects pop up in my hand, because I'm like, ooh, okay, this is going to be good. I love when I see Grand Abolisher, because it's like the best rate at, obviously, for the amount of mana that I'm trying to make. Bringing it down, it's like, we good? Okay, cool. And I'm just going to try and jam a win. And there's times where, obviously, like I said, people can get you with it. But I think that this is great, because, like, you're not forced to use, like, white in as far as, like, the color pips go, which is great. I think that the body on it is, like, really, really good. And honestly, I was telling you, like, I've thought about running to like the Teferi, like the 3-mana Teferi at times, just as like like an extra silence effect. There have been times where, like, you can put yourself in a really tough pickle where, like, you cast that, and the next thing you know, somebody, maybe they silence you or something happens, and now it's like, well, I have this Teferi on board, and I literally have no way to, like, win now because I'm stopped, or something happens to where, like, you can't go for the win, maybe get choked up on mana, something happens, and then you basically just hand this person, like the next person after you, like you have to have the interaction or nobody's gonna get to do anything. You know? So with this, it's like, okay, like let's say I cast it and somebody goes, well, I'm gonna silence you right now, or like they do something to try and at least like stop you. It's like, well, that's fine. Like if it gets back to me, I'm just gonna try again, and I'm not shutting the rest of the table off as far as like interaction and stuff like that goes. So I like it more than that. But I definitely I'm gonna slot it in, see how it does. I think it'll be really good. I just don't know what I'm gonna cut for it. That's honestly the toughest thing. I feel like decks keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter now. That like I genuinely just like I struggle to figure out what's gonna come out for it. So I'll be curious to see. I'm gonna go through my list and pick something and be like, gone.
Fair enough. So all right, moving on. So I kind of struggled to find a blue card that I liked out of this set. Which I think is interesting because the last time we did one of these, I felt like every single card was a blue card. But this one does kind of stand out to me for whatever reason. Stillness in Motion. So we have a 2-drop for a colorless and a blue enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill 3 cards. Then, if your library has no cards in it, exile this enchantment and put 5 cards from your graveyard on top of your library in any order. It's interesting. I think that if we've seen some decks that are trying to like go into like a self-mill strategy or try to utilize the graveyard as like an additional resource, like I don't think this would fit in like a blue farm or a Rogsire or anything like that by any means, but like Glarb has like this is like that's the commander that comes to mind for me on this, because not only are you able to like I guess kind of fuel your graveyard in a way if you're going into that kind of deck construction with that commander, it almost kind of acts as like another Doomsday in a way where it's like, oh, at the beginning of your upkeep you don't have anything in your library, now pick the best 5 cards that you want and crack that pile. Which I thought was interesting. Plus, like, it kind of gets around the like whole strategy. Like if like Blue Farm or Rogsai has to like just start milling everyone out instead of going Thassa's Demonic or Tainted Pact. Like if this is on board, like, oh, I'm gonna be able to pick the 5 cards that I want, and then I have 5 cards in my library, I draw 1, and I just pass the turn back around, so that way I'm not losing from not having a library. Like, that's where I think it's interesting. Will it see play? Probably not. I don't think so, but I think it can be, I don't know. It could be in a really unique spot, I think.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see. I'm sure it'll find a place in, like, a deck. I could definitely see something like that happening. I do think that's so funny. That is pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. Like I don't know. I like what you said. It basically is like a pseudo doomsday type thing. Like if for some reason you do mill everybody out, that is funny. Or even if maybe you mill people out and you like cast this as just like extra protection to like somebody has something that's gonna keep them from dying on their turn, and you've already milled your whole library out, and like you're gonna die as an upkeep or on your draw trigger, but then it's like, oh no, just like throw 5 cards on top, and you're like, we're still going, baby. So, I mean, I could see that. So, it is interesting. I think that's a fun card.
Yeah.
I think that was a good choice to throw that on there. It's fun.
Yeah, and like I said, I felt like this time around it was just difficult to find blue stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a bad thing, because it gives some extra support to the other colors, as we've talked before. And I feel like everyone has said blue tends to still be the strongest color. So, having it feel like it's a little bit weaker. Now, there were some other effects for like clone effects and things like that, but I feel like we're in a position now where if people are running clone effects, they're pretty well defined on what it is. So I'm good to move on past that one if you're good to move on past that one.
Solid.
All right, sounds good. So now that was the only blue card I had.
Really?
Yeah, that was the only one I had. So the next card I have on the list, now we're in black. So I have a couple here. The first one is cEDH Region of the Mire.
Okay.
And we kind of talked about this as we were doing the pack openings and things like that, but I'll kind of go through the stats of it first. So we have a 2-drop, 1 and a black, legendary creature, zombie snake warlock. That's a 1/3. And so you tap it, sacrifice a creature you control with mana value X other than cEDH. Return target creature card with mana value X +1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
No, I think that's... Me and you talked about this, like you said. I think that this is a fun little effect where I could see it as like a little bit of a gotcha type situation where, maybe I don't know, somebody does something to your Orcish Bowmaster and it dies. Like they flash in a Bowmaster, it dies to their Bowmaster coming in, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's too easy, and you just tap it, and like maybe you sack a dork, and then you bring back the Bowmaster, and then you kill their Bowmaster, and so it might be like a fun little gotcha with stuff like that. I'm sure that there would be a way to like maybe in something like Glor, maybe you dump your whole library or whatever into your graveyard, and then next thing you know, you use this ability to like basically same thing, sack a dork, and you bring back like a Thassa's or something like that.
Right.
I could see something like that maybe happening. I'm sure there'll be like some deck like that would do something like just it would do something similar to that.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see the card like see him play. I don't know. I think that I'm sure that honestly, even with that, like there might even be like some like way to use this to abuse like an Abdel Adrian line, things like that. So I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, the I feel like the thing that comes to mind for me the most is like Blood Pod.
Yeah, fair.
Where like if you're not going like super stacksy and you're trying to turbo out the lines, like I could see this being a card that really helps to like reset things in a way. Because like with that deck in particular, like this is another birthing pod effect. It's just it doesn't target your library, you target your graveyard, which in some cases might even be better just because of cards like Opposition Agent and Aven Mind Sensor and whatnot. But like what comes to mind for me is like if you have, let's say you've messed up your attempt to win through the Kiki Jiki line, most of your combos in the graveyard, if you're able to like utilize this to somehow get back like the Karmic Guide, and then like you get the Felidar Guardian out of your graveyard, on ETB, be able to flicker your Karmic Guide, be able to get the Kiki Jiki back, reset your whole combo, and then swing out. I think it provides a little bit more, not versatility is not the word that I'm thinking of for that deck, but maybe that is kind of fitting, but I think it can help present the win again if it like you mess up somewhere or someone like interacts with your pieces, like especially when you have those three, and then like I think most lists are running like the Village Bell Ringer.
Yeah,
like even if Village Bell Ringer comes down, it untaps your cEDH, and then you could do something again with it. So I don't know. I think that this is an interesting card. I could definitely see it fitting in that deck, especially if that deck is like moving more away from like some of the stacks pieces. But outside of that, I know you mentioned Glorb. I don't know what else it would fit into.
Yeah.
So
I think. I wonder if there would be like a fun little. I don't know. I know this is gonna. I'm trying to think. I wonder if there would be like any fun little combos that you could do where like. I don't know. Like I said, my immediate thought would be like your Thassa-y type stuff. Like maybe there'd be a way to like manipulate something like that. Like you go and you use like a creature tutor or something like that. Like something that is a creature that like tutors something up. You go and like get the Thassa or whatever, and then I don't know if you have a way to like. I don't know. I'm just going through like some convoluted line in my head, but
there's gonna be someone that like just big brains this.
Yeah.
Then not us though. So
could it be? Who cares? Never mind.
So I'm good on that one. The next one that I really liked. I like this card, and we talked about it when we did the pack openings too. Tip the Scales. So this is our first one on the list that actually comes out of the precons.
Okay.
And so what Tip the Scales is, it is for 2 colorless and a black, you have a sorcery. It says sacrifice a creature, period, which I'll talk about in a second. When you do, all creatures get -X until the end of the turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's toughness. So what I like about this card is that it is kind of like another Toxic Deluge. And I think that, I don't know if we talked about it or I talked about it with other people or things like that. Like you just mentioned a little bit ago about like, with the cEDH, if you had to bring back a Bowmaster because someone else killed off your Bowmaster. Well, at that point in time, you probably have this big ass Orc token that maybe you get to the point in the game
Yeah.
you can't even really like you're swinging, but you're not really doing anything with it because
Yeah.
you're getting chump blocked and things like that. You could sacrifice this orc token that, let's say it's just like a 7/7 or 8/8, probably kill everything that's on the table, you know, and now you've got this like more return on your investment from the bowmaster, and like you're able to wipe the table and kind of do whatever you need to from there. I just think it's strong. I think that, and I said I'd talk about this part, the sacrifice of creature, it's not an additional cost. Whereas Toxic Deluge, you have to pay the life as an additional cost. And even if that spell gets countered, well, you've lost all the life.
Yeah.
This, you sacrifice the creature as part of the resolution of the spell. So even if this gets countered and gets stopped, you're not out a creature.
So they don't even know what you're going to sacrifice then.
Right.
So you could just be trying to go for like a teeny tiny wipe, or you could go for full sin.
Right, because it doesn't say sacrifice target creature.
Yeah.
It just says sacrifice a creature.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's funny.
Yeah.
No, I like that. And like I think me and you, we did talk about the orc token situation. Like you could just sack it. I also like there'd probably be some situations too where maybe like a Valley Flood Caller is just really not doing you any good right now, and like you have just a couple of like maybe a free rock or something just on board, like something that you just want to like throw out real quick. Like, you know, somebody's about to untap into a Thrasios turn and just go absolutely, 8-10 or something, whatever's going to happen. And then you're just like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm just going to like, you cast a couple of things, Valley Flood Caller gets big, and then you send it out, and it's like, now it's a 4/4 for until end of turn. And then just kill the whole table, everything, like, or not the whole table, but like kill all the creatures.
Right.
And you're like, go ahead. And at least you like buy yourself another turn or whatever, maybe,
Right.
But I could just see stuff like that happening, but that'd be fun. That would be really, really funny.
Yeah, and I think it's a good card. I don't know how much of play it will see over the Toxic Deluge, because like if you're running black and you're trying to do a board wipe, that's most people's go-to. But this might be a way of, I don't see anything like Rogside playing it just because you don't have big enough creatures. But if you're wanting to like make sure your life total is padded because you have an ad-nause, this might be something that you would want in that kind of 3-drop board wipe slot, just so that way now you could get more off of your ad-nons.
Is it toughness of the creature, right?
Toughness.
I wonder if people, I mean, I'm not saying that they would, but I wonder if Rogside would like run something like this just simply for the fact that like you could cast Rog, sack Rog, and like kill everybody's dorks and like just completely set them back.
Could be.
I don't know.
Could be the only reason you cast Silas.
True.
Isn't he like a 2/2 though?
Maybe.
I don't remember. Like the only games I think I've seen someone cast a Silas, it's like it out of desperation, and like they are trying to get a Lotus Petal back from the graveyard by connecting and shit like that. So, yeah. I don't know. I think it's a fun card. I think it's good. We'll kind of see where it goes. So moving on. I only have one red card for the set, and this is one that I think quite a few people were hyped on whenever the set got released. But Stormscale Scion.
Okay.
So for 6, 4, and 2 red, you have a 4/4 with flying. Other dragons you control get +1/+1, so it's an Anthem effect on its own.
Okay.
And the card has Storm.
Aha.
So this is the creature that has the Storm mechanic already printed on it.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's going to be really fun. Like I said, in like a dragon travel deck, or even if you just needed like some food chain deck where you're like, well, I've cast a gajillion squeeze this turn, and then I'm just gonna throw out all of my creatures now have plus a billion for each one that's on the field
with flying, so they're evasive. And
yeah.
No, and I agree with you. I think that's kind of where it fits. Is like, I don't know how well or how good of an actual like cEDH card this would be, but I could see like, we've talked about like, is it like Storm Brews and maybe even like some Timber Storm stuff, where maybe if your main win con is either trying to like ping off the table or go for like the dual caster lines, like say you can't get to it, but you have this and you have enough mana. Okay, now you have all these dragons out on the field. And if someone doesn't win by the time it comes back to me, how are you going to deal with them?
Yeah.
That, like, if I saw this card like more in cEDH, I felt like that's kind of the position it would be in, because the creatures don't have haste, and you could get a lot of bodies. You could probably, like, even if your storm count's only like 7, you can pretty much take out the whole table.
Yeah.
Just with those alone.
Yeah.
And you're in red, so it's not impossible to get up to that amount of mana. Maybe even something like a Tali plays this.
Maybe.
Like a Tali just flipping into it, and then make this be like the last spell that goes on the stack that resolves from the Tali trigger. So that way it sees all of those and adds to the storm count, because those are all cast triggers.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that deck probably playing this.
That's fair. I could see that. I was thinking, well, I was sitting there thinking to myself at first, I was like, I wonder if like you could have some type of, like if you were playing like a Tiamat type deck, or if you were playing like something that's going to go and find dragons, things like that. I was wondering if, like you go and you get like your Terror of the Peaks, and like Terror of the Peaks comes down, and then all of a sudden you like storm this out, and just like all the ETBs just burn out the table.
Right.
But then I was like, I feel like that's just an unnecessary step, because if you already are at that point, you can just keep. So I don't know where it would fit in, but I could definitely see it in like something. Maybe it's what, red? So I mean, maybe this is something in like a crap. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you see something like this in Winota.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. You all of a sudden you've got like, I'm not saying you would, but I'm just saying like maybe all of a sudden you've got like 7 dragons. And now you're gonna swing and you're gonna get freaking 7 Winota triggers or something nutty. Like you're basically just gonna get to see the rest of your deck. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but
we're having to go real deep on this for this set. But I guess kind of take a brief pause from the cards themselves. Like, I don't feel like this is a cEDH set. It's a really good, just like in general, like, or casual commander like set, because you have all these different legendary creatures and you have all these like cool dragons for whoever's out there playing like Dragon or even Tiamat and things like that. But when we're talking about that bracket 5 cEDH level, we're kind of having to grasp for a lot of different things. At least that's kind of the issue that I ran into whenever I was kind of looking at some of these cards. But overall, like, I think it's a good set, especially for like other formats too. So I felt like it's really good. Like, I think there's a standard deck that like just got like a turn 4 like kill or something like that following this. So I mean, I think it's really strong for other formats, and there's good cards that we probably won't get to discuss that we did before, like the what was it, the Song Crafter Mage, the Timmer one.
Oh yeah.
That was like a Snapcaster Mage within Timmer colors. So I mean, we won't dive into it because I don't think it will see as much play in our format, but I think it's still a good card. But moving on, and speaking of cards that I'm just kind of reaching to see if there's things we can actually talk about. Herd Heirloom. So this is 2-drop for a colorless and green. It's an artifact.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, it's okay. And then it's just okay. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. And then you can also tap until end of the turn, target creature you control with power 4 or greater gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Like, I don't see like Timna or Sisay or Kennen or any of those decks like trying to really make room for this, especially since it's an artifact you have to put a colored pip into. But I mean, I often find myself like in like keeping hands where it's like turn 1 land, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Dork. So I mean, you're gonna run into situations like that where if you don't have the Arcane Signet but you have this, you can still make a really decent turn 1 play. So that's why I kind of like it. Plus, if you're like, I just mentioned Kennen, I just mentioned Sisay, like if you were to slot this card into those decks, like sometimes Sisay is going to be greater than a 4/4. Your creatures that you play in Kennen, like if you're playing like the Con Sphinx or some evasive like flying creature, or obviously it has Hullbreaker, Tidespout, things like that. Like if you have to swing and you need to draw a card, this can help you draw a card. So that's just kind of my thoughts on it. It's okay. It's not a cEDH staple. Someone might try to play it or try to see what they can do with it. But meh.
Yeah. No, I think I told you that the last time that we looked at this card, because that's what I was like, because I remembered the card whenever you were talking about it. Yeah. I mean, I think the problem for me is like I just don't play a lot of green, so I just don't know where I would slot it into anything. But I definitely think that like I mean it makes sense. I could see Leo maybe throwing in like a Selvala, but I mean even then I don't really think that that'll happen because he's got stuff that he can manipulate with Selvala. So there's that. I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. It's one of those cards that makes things. I don't know. I could see it fitting into stuff, and I think if there was a pip to be in like the casting cost of it, I think green makes sense just because like I mean it seems fair. Plus dorks come out pretty early, so like you've got the green to like do some stuff with that. It says creature all over it, and like big creature. So I mean it makes sense that it would be green,
right?
But yeah, I mean it would be nice if I could, like I told you, like it'd be nice to throw into like something like an Ishai deck where you're getting some like more advantage off of having your Ishai out. That would be nice, but even then, it's like I still think it's a fine card. It seems fine.
And I think that's about where it's at. Like someone might try it out in cEDH. I don't think it'll have the type of results that they're thinking, but it's definitely a good. I mean, it's a good commander card as far as like just casual play and things like that. So, moving on. The next one I have is another mono green card. Another one that has been pretty hyped up, and Leo bought every single copy that Hobbytown had. So he is the sole supplier of it in our area. But Nature's Rhythm. So for X and 2 green, it's a sorcery. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And then it also has Harmonize, which is a new mechanic from the set, where it's X and 4 green. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its Harmonized cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by an amount of generic mana equal to its power. Then exile this spell. So it's like you could kind of double up on this card in a way where it's like, you get it early game, and like say if the thing you're wanting is like an Enduring Vitality, like turn 2, turn 3, and you have this, and you're able to get it out, and then you can make use of it later with the Harmonize, which it's almost kind of like Court of Calling in a way with Convoke. It's just that the green creatures you might tap in this instance don't actually count towards the green pips. So that's kind of a drawback to it compared to Court of Calling. But I mean, it's another effect that we have in the format, just like Cord, Finale, Green Sun, Invasion of Ikoria, things like that. And I think what makes this nice too, it's not like color specific like Green Sun is. I think just the sorcery speed is the thing that hurts it.
Yeah. Well, I think me and you talked about it too. Like I could see this fitting into like something with like a Thrasios X, whatever deck, where you basically are just like using it to get your Devoted Druid, and then like later you're using the Devoted Druid mana to like go and like pay the Harmonized cost to like go get a Hazel or something like that, because then the Devoted Druid's going to already be in the yard for you. The Hazel will come in, and then you're trying to win there. I can see that being something that people do. It'd be a lot of mana to do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could see it. Or maybe you just like you're going to use it early to go get you like a Seedborn Muse, and then after that it's like, okay, cool, I'm chilling, I'm just maybe something like that. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, like I think green's gonna play tutors, like creature tutors regardless. I could see them playing this. Just for consistency's sake. Excuse me.
So and that was it for all of the monocolor cards that I have. And I'm like I said, I'm sure I missed some, but now we're actually getting into the multicolored stuff. And there's some cards on here that I was going back and I was looking, and I was looking through the stuff we pulled, and I was looking online, and this is actually one that we didn't pull and it kind of got under the radar. So I do want to talk about it for a little bit, just because like I think it's a cool card. This is Auroral Procession. So for a green and a blue, it's instant, and it's actually an uncommon. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So for green and blue at instant speed, just like it's for 1 extra blue pip, it's almost a Noxious Revival for yourself that it doesn't go on top of the library. It just puts it back into your hand. Yeah. So like it's neat. Like I don't see it being like something that's like played in every deck that has these colors, but I mean, sometimes, like for example, in playing TNT and also playing Sisay, one of the things that we run into as those pilots is graveyard, like getting things back from the graveyard can be difficult, and you're having to like shift your plan and like really think outside the box on what you're going to do. This might be a card that could be kind of slotted into decks like that, to where it's like, oh, I wasn't able to successfully resolve this Thassa's. I got enough mana. Let's go for it again. Or, oh, Derevi's in the graveyard. Let's use this to get him back, because you can't get him back with Tyvar or anything else. So I just thought it was a neat little card in that way. Again, I don't think it'd be like cEDH, like play it in every deck. But if some of the decks that may not be as heavy into red, that aren't relying on Underworld Breach or like a Yogg's Will or something like that, or even if they want to have like another Noxious Revival type effect, this could be something.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely agree with that.
So, any thoughts on that one, Phil?
Yeah, no, I think that'll be... I definitely think that it's going to be... I'm trying to think. I definitely think that it could be a good card. I'm just trying to think. Like, that was where my mind immediately went. Was like, how is this abusable? I guess. Like,
I think, well, in the deck that I've already talked about today, but didn't mention just then, Kennen.
Yeah.
Like, I've ran into so many issues recently where it's like I'm trying to jam a win and then my Basalt gets like countered. So, I mean, this is like another way for like the Kennen deck to be like, oh, I'm going to, at the end of your turn, get my Basalt Monolith back, and then I'm going to try and do it again. Yeah. So I could see something like that too.
Yeah, honestly, I could probably see this being like slotted into... Well, dang, never mind. Ignore me. I was going to say, like, I was thinking that, I don't know why I keep forgetting, it's like blue and green. But for some reason I was thinking like, oh, your Underworld Breach gets stopped. So like maybe something in like a, I don't know, if you're playing like a Rog Thras, like Underworld Breach type list or something like that, maybe that it'll fit in there to like get your Underworld Breach back. If it ends up getting like something happens to it, it goes to the graveyard, and you're like, okay, I'm sure.
Well, and plus, I know you just used it for Breach, but I mean, it's green and blue. It goes in Glarb.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah. For some reason I was thinking like, I was thinking blue for him, and I was like, no, dummy, there's no green there. And then I was like, okay, TNT. No, dummy, there's no.
Well, TNT is green.
Yeah, but there's no breach there.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it can kind of help a slot. Like, if pilots are really just going like, okay, I'm in this tough spot where I've either used up all my resources, or all my win cons are in the graveyard, and I don't really have much in the deck to get it back out. This might be something that can kind of help with that, because so that's all I really have on that one. The next card, this is one we also overlooked, and then after going back and seeing some things online, I was like, that's kind of cool. Karu Goldkeeper. So this is another uncommon. It's a dragon. So for a colorless, and then one of each Sultai pips. So black, green, and blue. You have a 3/3 flyer, and whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard during your turn, create a treasure token. And I'll explain. That's the main reason why I put this on there. But then it also has Renew, which is another new mechanic from the set, where you can pay 2 generic, a black, a green, and a blue. Exile this card from your graveyard. Put 2 +1/+1 counters and a flying counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery. That part's not as important. The second part, that static ability of whenever something leaves your graveyard during your turn. It doesn't specify where. So it can be back to the battlefield, like if you're doing like grave crawler lines and like recasting things, and then you get more treasures. It can also mean into exile. So every time you have a Necropotence trigger from it going from your graveyard into exile, this triggers, and you get a treasure for each trigger that happens.
What were the colors on this?
It's Sultai. Fuck. So it's pretty strong for a 4-drop. That's a 3/3. It's in Sultai colors, and it's kind of all around doing some of the things that Sultai wants to do. So yeah, I kind of went back and I saw that card. I was like, oh, that's probably something we should talk about a little bit. It's pretty good when you think of it that way.
Yes. I'm so upset. I was like, mana. It's good. It's really good.
It's
wrong
good.
colors, but good.
Yeah. Well, and like if you are going into those strategies where it's like you're doing like the loops for like the Gravecrawler stuff with like Blood Artist or Zulaport Cutthroat, like you're making a treasure every time that that creature leaves your graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's paying for itself each time, and then you're just draining the table.
Mm-hmm.
Now obviously this creature is not the sack outlet that you need, so you still need additional steps. But it is a way of kind of making sure that it secures that line, and you're actually either going neutral or net positive, whenever you are doing lines like that. So I just thought that was a cool card. We looked over it. We never pulled one. So just thought it was worth talking about.
Yeah, no, I think it was really good.
So the next one is another Sultai card. So, and I'd seen people talk about this a little bit off and on. This is Lotus Light Dancers. So for 2 colorless, black, green, and a blue, so again, we're in Sultai colors, you have a 3/6 zombie bard, and it has lifelink. When this creature enters, search your library for a black card, a green card, and a blue card. Put those cards into your graveyard, then shuffle. So, I mean, whenever I think of that, it's like, okay, let's go get a Thassa's, a Demonic Consultation, and like a Veil of Summer off of this ETB.
Yeah.
Like, let's just go on ahead and assemble that, and we have it protected with, make it, our spells can't be countered, and then boom. Easiest 2-card combo that we have in the format. If you're thinking green, I mean, there's also Dosen if you wanted to make it have that silence effect in green. But that's what kind of came to mind for me whenever I saw this card.
Yeah, I could see this, I don't know, probably like a Thrash Vial deck or something like that, like Vial Smash with Thrassios. I could see it doing something crazy in that. I'm sure that, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think like it sounds like a really good card. I was trying to think like maybe you could probably do like some type of Dread Return combo or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe that. I don't know. I think that I'm sure that there is a way to continue to like abuse that too. Like, or heck, I don't know.
Man. Well, and the fact that it's an ETB, so anything that like flickers it, like a Displacer Kitten or something like that, like you're probably gonna have that happen quite a bit if you're running these cards in conjunction with one another. I think the fact that it's a 3/6 too, that's beefy.
Yeah,
like it takes out almost every threat you could think of in the format. Can kill a fucking Draenith or Voice of Victory and shit like that. Like, I think that's pretty good. But yeah, I don't know where it fits, but it is kind of a cool card. Now, the next card. This is the only artifact. Well, no, I don't want to say this is the only artifact because we just talked about the other artifact. But one of the first artifacts that got spoiled for the set. So we are at Mox Jasper. Yeah. So for a 0-drop, we have a legendary artifact that tap, add 1 mana of any color, activate only if you control a dragon.
Yeah, I forgot who it was that said this, but it's just like Mox Opal, but for dragons rather than artifacts.
Pretty much. So like,
I think that just makes it a lot worse. I don't know what dragon would be coming down early enough to like make this worth it.
Right.
I think that obviously, like, again, this is kind of one of those cards that would be like a little bit weird because I feel like it could see playing like a casual dragon deck as long as people are like okay with that. I don't know. Some people might be like, "Oh,
I think they would be." Like,
I would hope so. Yeah. But I think that
because it's not really like it is and it isn't fast mana.
Yeah.
Because it is very specific. It's like having a Mox Opal in your opening hand, but you only have like 0 or 1 other artifact. Like you could cast it for free, but it's not going to do shit because it's not turned on, and it's going to be like sometimes I've had games where my Mox Opal just sits there. I cast it for pretty much no reason, and then like in the format before, it would have been like, oh, it's fodder to Dockside. And now it's more of like, oh, Culling Writ just blows it up, and I never got to use it. Cool, like. Or I'm gonna do the was it bargain with Beseech the Mirror or something like that, and then if I can go get what I want, and that's the most use I get out of it. So, but yeah, I think that it'll go in Dragon decks. cEDH playable, not really. Tiamat probably use it. I know that guys from Play to Win joked about it being a Flubs card. I don't plan on putting it in Flubs. So yeah, that's. If I'm not putting a card like that in Flubs,
Yeah.
You know something good. So, the one of the last cards that I have on here, and this is, I know I've kind of talked about others that, you know, whenever spoiler season is going on and people were speculating, this is also one of those cards that was the most hyped up. So now we are at Mistrise Village.
Yeah.
So this is the land. So this reads, this land enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest, and you can tap it for 1 blue. And then the important part is the ability of you can tap a blue and tap it. The next spell you cast this turn can't be countered.
Yeah. Man, this card is so weird because we played the other day with these decks. Spoilers, like they'll obviously be on the channel at some point, or probably soon.
This weekend.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, it just feels weird, man. Like, I mean, there's times obviously like it will come in untapped, but it's just like it's like a weird rate. Like it's almost like, and we had talked about this. It's like preemptively casting like a counter spell that can't be like that's uncounterable basically. Like, I don't know. It feels more like a repeatable, almost like a Dovin's veto, but like instead it's like blue. You know what I mean? So you are already tapping a land that taps for blue, and then you're tapping this, so you're not necessarily putting mana into it, but this makes blue, so technically like you're blue, and then you're just making the next thing uncountable. So like if you were doing like Thassa and they go Thassa good, and you're like great, blue, black, and then something else, I'm gonna cast this Tainted Pact uncountable. That's great, but man, I feel like that's gonna be really hard to.
It's hard to justify doing that.
Yeah, you got a lot of blue pips. Like, I mean, I would feel like most decks would get. Most people probably have a hard time getting the blue, I guess, for like a Thassa. A lot of the time, while also keeping a lot of their other cards in their hand like relevant. I think that's why you see like more blue synergy, like think more blue pips on things than anything. So I think that obviously helps, but I don't know, man. I tried to make it work a couple of times, and like I just haven't had any success with it. And even with not being an Esper, like I was playing a different color pile, and then I just still was like, okay, I could use this, and I could cast my little silence effect for free. But then I'm like, oh, I don't have enough mana to do the other stuff that I want to do. Like, so it just feels a little bit clunky, feels a little weird. I definitely think that it's probably going to be good. If it replaces anything, I think it probably just replaces something like Manamo.
Maybe.
And I don't even know. But that would be like one thing that I could see. Obviously, if it's going to like guarantee you win the game, then by all means, this is what you should be doing. Where some people are just going to use Manamo to like untap the One Ring.
Right.
So like for sure, if this is going to keep, help you win, go for it. But I mean, honestly, I would rather just like hard cast the Abolisher, hard cast.
Right. Well, or like be able to use the Cavern Souls naming human, cast the Abolisher that way, and make it to where it can't be countered. Like, plus, it doesn't say anything about getting around Mindbreak Trap.
Yeah. So
I mean, your shit could still be exiled. Like, say if you're, we mentioned Elevere and like some of the decks like that, like. They're not running counter magic, but they're running cards like Reprieve that, instead of countering the card, they just return it to your hand. And then there you go. You just spent 2 extra blue pips to essentially to make sure that card wouldn't be countered. And now it's, it's back here in my hand. And now I'm down on mana.
Yeah.
So
I run Reprieve,
what do you do?
So that does happen to people.
You run in Sithis?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, like, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, even in, like, Sink into Stupor is becoming more common, too. So, like, cards like that, not saying that stuff, like, it's not perfect. Obviously, like, if you can use this card, I think that's the thing with a lot of these cards. Like, the floor and the ceiling are so, like, there's a huge gap in here. Like, it can be very good or it can be absolute trash.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like where it's going to shine is probably in your... Man, I feel like in the decks where like it would really shine would be the stuff that would be like Thassa Consult type decks. But in a Thassa Consult type deck that's playing Mountains and Forests, like, or else it's coming in tapped, like it's just weird. Like, I feel like if it said like if you control a swamp or a plains, or if you control a swamp or a forest or something like that, this would fit so much better into a deck like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think that obviously it's got a place. I just would struggle to figure out
There's one deck.
Yeah.
And you know what it is.
Yeah.
Kinnan.
Yeah.
You know it's going to go in that deck.
Yeah. And even then, I don't know really, like, what are you wanting to make uncounterable? Like, that's the only thing that I just don't...
Like, Seaborn, your Finales, Basalt Monolith, Tezzeret.
Yeah. Oh, duh. I didn't even think about the Basalt Sling stuff.
Yeah, like, so, and plus, like, that is probably the best place, I feel like, for that card, because I was thinking about this as you were talking. I feel like this card gets better the fewer colors you are running in the deck. And obviously you can't, I mean, you could run it in mono blue, but you're not going to get, like, it's always going to come into play tapped.
Yeah.
And then is like, you could run it and then is it like Storm build, but sometimes you're hurting for the blue pips in those. So what's the next deck it just kind of naturally starts gravitating towards? It's going to be Kinnan.
Yeah.
So, or if, you know, you're at a table and, you know, I'm gonna use myself as an example, and, you know, you're trying to slam a Kinnan down and your shit just keeps getting countered over and over again, especially the Kinnan. Now he costs like 8 to 10. I'm gonna make sure that motherfucker can not be countered this time, and I'm just gonna use it. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess I could see, like, even if you just really wanted to, like, I feel like in a deck like that is where it's probably going to shine the most because of how much mana the deck makes and then the ways that you can abuse it. Honestly, even just bring it down like an uncountable Heuristic Study or an uncountable fish, whatever it may be. I could see
2 mana for a fish, though. Uncountable fish.
I'm not saying that it's good, but I'm just saying, like,
Smothering Tithe, though. Smothering Tithe would be a really good card.
Yeah,
for it
in Kinnan, yeah.
No, I'm just like in something like cEDH or things like that. But that deck is already tight on the lands.
Well, that's what I was run. That's what I was going to say. Is even in something like cEDH though, like, would you even run something like this? Like,
potentially, most cEDH lists I think are on 29 lands because of all the legendaries and things like that. I think I'm on at 28 at the moment, and I actually wanted to experiment with Minamo being in and being able to either, like, if I have to pivot and like use Minamo to take advantage of like untapping a Chromatic or you're a One Ring or a Selvala or the Gaia's Cradle. Like, I think it's another good card. Plus you could tutor it out with cEDH. This you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
And I don't really see myself running this card in that deck, because if you're running the dorks and you're hitting your curve and you're hitting your lands, like, obviously that's a perfect situation. But even early game, like, there's been times I'm ending turn 1 and I have 4 of the 5 colors already out. But for the most part, you're not really trying to keep things in your hand. You're not trying to cast things directly from your hand oftentimes with cEDH. Same thing with Kinnan, though, too. You're mostly just trying to flip into whatever it is that you need. So, yeah, that's where I kind of see it, like, not being good in my main deck with cEDH, but I don't know. I could be wrong on that. I think there's going to be some other pilots that really try to jam this and see what they can make happen with it.
That makes sense. I think, yeah, that makes sense.
So, other than that, you know, I think just to kind of quickly mention it, not go over each individual one, but I think it was interesting that in the pre-cons, they did a new set of, like, the wills. So just like how Jessica's will is, where as long as you control your commander, you get to pick both modes. And I'll kind of flash those up. But there's a will for each clan. So there's the Will of Mardu, Will of Timur, Will of Abzan, Will of Jeskai, and Will of Sultai. The only one that's instant speed is Will of Mardu. And it's kind of cool in a way where it can be a little bit of removal. And the same thing with the Will of Abzan, but the sorcerer speed can kind of be removal. Those might be the only two that I see being at a cEDH level. But yeah, other than that, I'm not going to spend the rest of the time talking on those. I thought it was cool that they printed a new series of them.
No, and that's the thing. It's like, I don't want people to think that I think this set is bad by any means. I think that there's a lot of really fun cards in the set. I like stuff like this because I feel like this is the stuff that gets buy-in into Commander. Like, people see dragons and they go, oh, I really like dragons. Like stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, you know what I mean? Like, they see this stuff and they go, ooh, I really want to get into the game. And the more people we have getting in the game, the more they're going to experiment with different stuff. And that means that eventually people may creep up to our bracket 5 cEDH level. That means we've got more people to play with. Like, I don't want people to think that we're just a couple of asses that, like, don't enjoy seeing new people get in the format, and we're just like always hating on cards and we're doing stuff. We're just giving analysis of stuff. That's all it is. So I enjoy giving my input on things. And if you don't like it, please keep watching. No, I'm just kidding.
So I think that about wraps things up, though. Is there any other cards that you've seen from the set, or maybe we didn't touch on today, that you feel like you're worth noting?
No, I mean, I think the only card that we got like new reprints of like the fetches.
That's true. We didn't really go into that. Yeah, we do have the new fetches. Mm-hmm. We got a Crater Hoof like reprint that's part of the main set, which is kind of cool for the other formats.
Yeah. Got like a new Rhino.
Yeah, the skirmish Rhino. Yeah, a lot of really cool arts.
Yep.
And we talked about this whenever like we were opening the packs. Like I thought it was really cool to see the new borders, the new art styles, the Ghost Fire arts. Things like that, because it actually made it feel like it was a Magic set.
Yeah.
Not the, the piss art from Aether Drift, or the random arts that was a reference to Drag Race stuff, or things like that. It's cool if you like that stuff, but I want an actual Magic set. And this is what this felt like to me, is like an actual Magic set, and they did a good job with this.
Yeah.
Now, will it be the most popular set of the year or the most anticipated? I don't know, but only time will tell on that one. Other than that, I know I mentioned it earlier on when we first started, but this weekend we will have gameplay for these. And we didn't go over the commanders in this, but I will make sure that the deck lists are in the description for this and on the gameplay. And go check that out when you get the chance. On Saturday. When it's there. Do it. What are you smiling for?
I'm just waiting.
Are you waiting for me? Because I always do the outro. Is that?
And as always, that's all good.
Oh, man. But anyway, yeah. If you enjoyed this, let us know. If there are cards that we missed, let us know. If there are opinions that we had that just absolutely sucked, let us know, because I know that you will. But thank you so much for watching today. I hope that this was insightful and that Blake doesn't get bullied after this. But other than that, thank you again. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always,
go play some cEDH. That was funny, dude. I was like holding it together, and then I was like, nope, we're not gonna hold it together.